Welcome to An Elegant Weapon, episode 132. I'm your host, the Jedi Ross J. Please excuse me for one little moment while I flick my bick. Oh, it's good to be back this week with you kids. This is a little weird. This is a little different. I am in the middle of it. Well, not in the middle. I'm at the very beginning of a vodcast. Loyal, long-time listeners will remember we tried to do this about a year and a half ago or something like that, and it led to an interesting evening of giggles and feedback. But it was good times. It was fun, so we're going to try this again. We're going to try it with a good time party guest. Last year, everybody knows, I went to Motor City Comic Con in Michigan. Everybody knows because I won't shut up about what a good time I had at Motor City Comic Con in Michigan. I met some amazing people and had some amazing times. One of those people I met, an amazing person herself, is Miss Kosmic Casey. Casey, thank you for hanging out tonight.
Oh, thank you. Honored to be on your show.
It's an honor to have you here. I made my cup of coffee. I've watched a few episodes of your Dark Blend podcast there.
Oh my God, you actually watched it? I'm so sorry.
I did, and it was an enjoyable time. So I made myself a nice little Empire cup of coffee here.
Oh, very cool. I have no coffee. I'm coffeeless.
That's just not right. I just kind of assumed you'd be prepared.
I know. I should have known to make coffee since I knew we were going to talk crazy anyway. Speaking of Motor City, interestingly enough, whenever I see the words Elegant Weapon or your name pop up on Facebook, I think of the first time that we met was actually during my interview when you bum rushed it. And I think I had far too many whiskeys because I said the F word several times because I was angry about you making a headway for Elegant Weapon during my first Drunk on Comics interview.
Oh my goodness, I must apologize.
No. It was hilarious. Go back and listen to it. I am so embarrassed, but I was like...
I'm trying to remember the exact moment.
You actually apologized on the podcast. You were like, I apologize.
Okay, that's good. At least I had the wherewithal. That, you know, as memorable and amazing as that weekend was, a lot of it was a little bit fuzzy.
Oh God, yeah, that whole interview was fuzzy. Actually, at the beginning of the episode, Derek says, I'm gonna have to listen to this to remember it because we were all slaughtered. It was quite a scene.
Where did we record this?
This was at the after party around the bonfire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was excellent time.
Because you had just talked to Scotty Yard?
Maybe. No, I don't think I was in on that one. We had talked to, there were so many fireside chats. We talked to Bob Camp out there.
Yeah.
Billy Zabka. And we were hanging out with Scott Wilson, but we didn't actually get to podcast with him. But I remember walking in, and because I mean, I've known the guys from Drunk on Comics for a few years now, but it was strictly Twitter and online and the podcasts. And, you know, we hooked up that I'd come down and visit. And it was really weird coincidence because I got there and I parked my car and I walked into the center, and literally the first human being I saw was Derek coming out of the elevator. And, you know, I knew knew what he looked like to know it was him. Mm-hmm. So we just, like, not a word, we just walked to each other in a warm embrace, and we're like, all right, this is going to be cool. And then it just started, a floodgate of meeting people, and just, this is this person, this is that person. I must have shook a million hands within that first hour of just being there, you know. Mm-hmm. Derek being the personable person that he is.
Absolutely.
And then I remember, like, because I don't remember meeting a lot of the people, you know, not many people really stuck out at the point, except for two people. And I remember you and Holly just sticking out like crazy. And I was like, okay, who are these cool-ass broads? And then we went to dinner at that Italian pasta place. Mm-hmm. Where they were making the pasta in the little window. They had, like, the little, you know...
Oh, yeah, because I had met you then, and I was too drunk to remember that. I heard And I said, I went out to dinner with this man. He's awesome. And Derek's like, you also went out to dinner with us, but I don't remember you saying anything about that. So, yes, I do remember that, but continue.
Yeah, no, it was good times, but it's just you guys. Michigan has this contingency, this militia of people that are A, extremely talented bunch of people, and B, so tight and so close.
Yes, camaraderie is what we call it, Michigan camaraderie. And I always say, I don't think I could go anywhere else to any other city, any other metro city, any other state, and find the close con family knit that we have between podcasts, between what writers, illustrators who are on the cusp and those who are just starting. We all treat each other equally and we all scratch each other's backs. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm so blessed to be a part of it. Very blessed.
I mean, there's like here in Toronto, incredible art community. It's a little bit larger. Like, yeah, a lot of people know each other, and there's these tight little circles, and it's the same thing. Like, people have each other's backs, and a lot of support, a lot of encouragement. But there's something a little different going on in Michigan. There's something a little more personal that you can feel, and I'm still working about putting my finger on it. Like, are you Michigan born and raised? Like,
Absolutely.
okay.
Fire and ice, baby.
So you guys have just all come up together then? Like, you've just all known each other for so long through being at cons and stuff? Or
You know, a lot of this, a good chunk of it comes down to Motor City Sketch, which is an artist group. We all, you know, a lot of them do gallery shows, and they do tour Comic-Cons and things like that. I'm probably one of the only writers, but we network that way, and I think that's the key to it, is that we are all about networking. Nobody has there's not a big collection of egos. Don't get me wrong, there are egos, but we override that in order to really help each other out and lift each other up, and it helps. It helps.
It's cool to see. It's a really special thing, not just being that close, but the amount of talent coming out of Michigan. It's insane. Like, it's very similar to here, actually. Like, one lucky thing about being in Toronto at this present time is a lot of at least the bigger name artists right now who are actually working on a lot of like big 2 books are actually in the area. Like, there's a huge contingency of professional, comic book artists who are stationed out of like the Southern Ontario area,
Mm-hmm.
So as far as that kind of influence, as far as learning and experiencing and, talking to people, there's a lot of that, but there's something more personal in Michigan. You guys just care. You guys care about each other. It's like a giant love Care Bear fest going on.
It is, and after every con, I notice we all do these internet group hugs, like, I would like to thank, and the following people that I've met. And I think, too, it's when we meet people, we tend to follow up with everybody. And aside from the goal of making money and publicity and promoting, and that's all important too, but we love the experience. We relish in it, and some cons that I've been to, I've really enjoyed, even though some of them were financial busts or promoting busts, what have you. They were still great because of the people that I met, and that makes a huge difference. And I think we're very business-minded, and we're all self-starters, because I know Source Point Press and Michigan Comics Collective, these are, God bless them, they have great spirit. And they're everyday people, just like you and me, 9-to-5ers, people with kids, families and what have you. And they sacrifice a lot to even get where they are right now. They've got a long way to go, but these are amazing talents. And I think that Empire Spirit. Plus, Michigan, if you look at it, we have a history of self-starters. Henry Ford, everything just comes down to a lot of business-minded people. So we have a long history of that, and I think it carries on. And I'm rambling now, but you get the point.
No, not at all. I totally get the point. There's a lack of ego, I find, in a lot of Michigan artists that you won't find in other places I've been and other cons I've been to. People have this. It's a deeper passion for what they do. People are doing it more for the cause of doing it, because they love it, sort of thing, right?
Absolutely,
Like,
and that's what helps to win in the end.
yeah, and it's not just your circle. It's like other particular people who I've met. Like, I don't even know if do you know Nick Francis?
I know the name.
You know the name? Nick Francis is a guy that I met on Twitter years ago, and he's been on the show a couple times, and we became friends, and he's a total Michigan boy. And he's there every year at Motor City. So not just meeting all you cool cats, I got to actually meet this guy who, and that's been an amazing thing about, because I've been traveling out to cons more. Motor City was my first American Comic-Con. That was that was the first time I'd ever been to a south of the border con.
Cool.
And it was super rad. I didn't know what to expect as far as at least the people, you know what I mean? Like, I knew it was going to be a Comic-Con and artists and blah blah blah, but there's been times in the past when I've been around a large group of Americans that hasn't been the smoothest situation. I.e., Woodstock 99 comes to mind. So...
Were you the one that started that fire? That was you.
No, I was the one running the other way back to Canada. That's where...
Jeez Louise.
That was me.
Jeez
But,
Louise.
I fly around and I'm getting to meet these people that, you get so tight with over the years. And, it takes a little effort, but it's not impossible. And now I'm getting to fly around. And I was just down in Pennsylvania like a month and a bit ago for Great Allentown Con. Finally got to meet my buddy Stan, another guy. He's been sponsoring this podcast for 2 years, and I've never met him, right? So, but it's weird because when I did meet him, and I met him at the airport, there's no handshakes. There's only hugs, I've never seen this guy before, but just through support and friendship and hanging out, you meet some beautiful people. That's why I'm a big proponent of, like, social networking and stuff,
Oh, yeah. Twitter helped me out a lot. I mean, whereas... I think Twitter is great for podcasts. Twitter is great for writers. Not so much illustrators. I feel like things like Facebook and Instagram help them out a little bit more because it's a little more visual. But I know with Twitter, I mean, the hashtags help out tremendously. I mean, I've gained hundreds of followers just from the tag sci-fi. Yeah, that's a big thing.
Absolutely.
So, but Nick Francis, that's the name. Now, what does he do?
He's a pure freelance illustrator. He's done some work with Greyhaven.
Okay. I'm writing this down.
Excuse me. Yeah, I share his stuff on Elegant Weapons Facebook page all the time. You can find it the Art of Nick Francis is his page, but he's just like a freelance illustrator, and he's just a talented motherfucker with just no ego, the nicest guy in the world. And it was so cool because he'd been on the show before, and then I actually got to sit at Motor City and like interview him live for the first time, which was super cool indeed. Now, talking about inspiration and support, following you on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, for me, inspiration is the right word. Not that I need to be inspired much. I'm a pretty inspired person, I'd like to think myself. But watching you go about not just your work, but your day-to-day life and the attitude you carry about while doing it, it's just so badass.
Aww.
I love to watch it. I don't want this to sound wrong, okay? Like, don't take these words literally, but you ever have a con crush? And I don't mean not necessarily between like a guy and a girl or that kind of thing, but you ever go to a Comic-Con and you come out of that Comic-Con and there's 2 or 3 things or people that just stick in your head, and you're like, just because they were a rad experience or a rad situation, right?
Yeah, it's adoration.
Yeah, the number one thing I took away after Motor City Comic-Con, other than getting to meet my Drunk on Comics boys, was you. Was coming out of there, and I'm not trying to get like I'm not trying to sound all like gushy.
I understand.
But you know what I mean. I get the impression that you've been through some things. You've been at points in your life where you weren't the happiest, and you wanted to change these things. And I get the impression, because I haven't known you that long, that not only did you work hard to fight and change these things, you kicked these things asses. Like you went you didn't just succeed, you kind of went above and beyond anything you had planned on. So I feel like you're the type of person who has started a path for yourself, and you're just barreling down that path, and nothing's going to stop you. You know what I mean? And while you're barreling down that path, you're looking about as fucking cool as you could.
Oh, dude, thank you. I'm so professionally, I'm very flattered. Thank you very much. And you're right. You know, it's that empire state of mind, and we are the master and commanders of our own destiny. And um, I refuse to believe or accept any finality of any situation. And because of that, I haven't run into any finalities so far. So
Nice. That's a very James Kirk way to look at things.
yeah,
You cannot believe, you don't believe in no-win scenarios, right?
right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. From so you must be talking about like well, career-wise and my weight loss and my neurological disorders and things like that. So yeah, I've been through a lot of personal stuff, but I come back swinging. So.
You come back more than swinging. You're coming back knocking them out of the park, is, you know, at least from the impression I've been getting. But you just, you know, a lot of people that you meet, you know, there's some positive people, but you impress me with how you keep it up. You know what I mean? Like I'm a pretty positive person most of the time, and when I'm not positive, it's not that I'm like, I don't get depressed or sad, but I can be your typical dude. I get pissed off, I get angry, I get offended.
Sure.
I want to yell and scream and throw a broadsword around. You know what I mean? But I haven't seen this come out of you. You handle things with a much classier grace than I would ever admit that I do. You know what I mean?
You know, and I appreciate you saying that, and I love to inspire people. But I'll tell you what helped me maintain con graces and grace in the face of anything was Dirk Manning's book, Right or Wrong. And whether you are a writer, illustrator, or just someone, just another human being, it really taught me a lot about how to have con graces, how to act, and the people that you're going to run into, and how you need to handle those situations. Because this is a tight, like as tight as we are, you know, family wise, you know that it's a tight circle, gossip wise, or people talk, and it's all a game of telephone if you put negative energy out there. So no matter what, you know, in that book he says, be nice to people no matter what. And it sounds so simple, but it makes all the difference. And it makes all the difference in your demeanor and your attitude. And people really, people remember that. People remember every little word you say.
It's funny that that story kind of led out of Dirk Manning, who was on the show a little while ago. But it's funny because very, very rarely, and you and Dirk are probably maybe two of the only guests I've ever had who have said they've been honored to be on this fucking show.
That's that grace.
No, there's something there. It's rubbing off on each other because what a gentleman. What an amazing,
absolutely.
What amazing dude in general. Like I had a blast getting to know and hanging out with Dirk, but also just he was so graceful on the gracious on the podcast as far as the passion shows through. You know, he loves what he does, and more so he loves to share it. He loves to help other people, you know, achieve these dreams as well. So we had one little funny thing though. It pulled out the philosophy aspect of things a little, because I was discussing how I've always had these two plot lines for a Star Wars fan story and a Star Trek fan story, fan fiction that I've had for years. Mm-hmm. And I've written little bits here and there, and I really enjoy writing. Like I'm a creative person, but I'm not a writer in any way. But I do enjoy to write, so I always have on and off over the years. But I've always had these two stories in my head. And Dirk did just what Dirk should do. And he kind of presented it to me, okay, what's cool about Star Wars? And, you know, I'm like, well, lightsabers. And he's kind of like, well, try to think up something that you think is just as cool, but is your own thing, sort of thing, right? Like, you know, take that story that you had, but why does it have to be Star Wars? Try to find something as cool as you think, make it your own thing, which is very, very good advice. It's wonderful advice, and I totally agree and understand. Except I don't think that any human from this point on will ever live on this earth that will possibly come up with a cooler fictional weapon than a lightsaber. So I see where you're going with that, Dirk, but I don't think it works out well with the lightsaber example. You know what I mean?
Well, riddle me this. Let's say you're going to write and you're thinking of a weapon, and do you immediately start thinking, well, they are not going to think this is cool. It's not going to impress the reader. It might impress me, but it's not going to impress someone else. Is that your mentality going into it?
No, not at all. See, the only reason I came up with these stories is because they were inspired by Star Wars themselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I decided I want to write a story and I like Star Wars, so I'm going to write it about Star Wars. I've read every Star Wars comic book out there, and having read those, you know how you read those plot lines of other things and they give you ideas of where to expand those stories that you're reading or writing, or sorry, that you're, reading and stuff.
Right.
So I totally get where you shouldn't go to a well just because you want to write a story. Don't just pick something you like. Be original. Come up with your own thing. I totally get that. But I also see the enjoyment of things like fan fiction, where people may be inspired by something that makes them think up an idea. So there's two sides to the coin. I think there's room for everybody. But I was just being a jackass with him about the lightsaber and stuff. But
well,
he was just so. Everything he said was you just beyond writing too. Whatever your creative process is, you can take these ideas and implement them, and it's fantastic for him for wanting to share it so much.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and he'll tell you, the story of how he came up, this sort of fake it till you make it mentality, which we all have, and he made a way for himself in comics when there was no way, there was no trail that was blazed. You just worked hard and fought to talk to who you wanted to talk to. I mean, it was a fight, and now there is sort of a pathway to comics, via self-publishing, and you can get in touch with this person, email that person. That all was not going on at the time when Dirk was starting out. So that's really inspiring too. Where there wasn't a door, he pretty much chainsawed into the wall.
Yeah.
But my advice to you is, I'm nobody to give advice. I mean, I'm green myself when it comes to writing, but if you are passionate about Star Wars and you are a big fan, this is what I do, start writing what you think is absolute garbage that no one is ever going to read. Go back and look at it, and that is exactly what you wanted to say. Just fine-tune it and clean it up. And you're like, this is genius.
Nice.
Or else you're going to be staring at a blank cursor for like an hour.
Yeah,
sometimes I do. But just start writing garbage. Start writing thoughts. Start writing thoughts about Star Wars.
That's exactly how I always start. I've got, I'll just write bullet points, as I'm...
Things people say, dialogue. Even if you just started with an opening line. And you just go from there. It's like after a while, you're going to feel like you're starting to play piano at the keyboard here, because you're in the flow, you're in the moment. Even though you think it's total garbage, you're like, what the fuck is this? And then you go back and clean it up, and you're like, I got something. Now I have my catalyst.
Yeah.
So
I find often I'll end up working backwards on things. Like I'll have an idea, and sometimes I've come up with a great ending to a story, and been like, okay, this would be a badass way to end a story. Let's figure out how we got to that ending, right? So let's start working our way back and see how things... I'm a big freak for chronology. Mm-hmm. Like, my favorite stories are ones that connect over time. Like, see, I'm not a lot of people don't get it when I say this. I'm not necessarily a Star Wars fan. And I kind of more classify myself as a Jedi fan. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, the movies aren't what moves me. The movies aren't what I fell in love with. Is like, I remember them as a kid. I have the same nostalgia everybody has. They're fucking awesome. They're fucking Star Wars. But it was when I hit the books and when I hit the comics that my true love for this whole franchise exploded. when I started reading about the history of the Jedi, where the Jedi came from, how did this come about, Sith lore, Sith history, this is what hooked me. This is when I got really deep into Star Wars, was Dark Horse, which
Okay.
is a sad thing now, but that's where I come in, I mean, I'm not a Star Wars collector. I'm a lightsaber collector. You know what I mean?
And that's fine. I think what you're in love with aspects of Star Wars, perhaps maybe the military and religion of the Force or of the Alliance, and that's fine too. I mean, if you're going to write a fan fiction, then do it just based on that. The the Jedi Alliance. I mean, there's no rules. Just go ahead and do it. Write a story about a Jedi. Why not? Make up somebody totally different. Why not?
I did one whole storyline that was all about the stuff that they're doing, not the same story, but at the time that they're doing the new movie, and it makes me all just see, I've had to learn to look at the writing and movies and stuff really differently, because I feel like a jackass to myself sometimes. You ever give advice to people that you have a hard time following yourself? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? You've got the cinematic universe, then you've got the comic world, right?
Right.
And never at any point was anybody really bothered by the fact that you had to change stuff to make the movies. The stories had to change, whether it because a time thing or a studio rights ownership thing or whatever the hell's going on. So it's always been kind of two separate entities. And then I thought to myself, why is it so difficult for us Star Wars fans to separate the books, the comics from the movies? Star Wars fans seem to have a much more difficult time looking at them as two different entities. Unlike the Marvel universe, where they've got the movie universe, you've got your comic universe, and they're two completely separate universes. Where for some reason in Star Wars, only maybe Star Trek fans are as anal about canon and continuity as Star Wars fans are. It's insane how far. So I've had to retrain my brain and be like, okay, look, you got to look at it in a new way. Those comics are a completely different universe, and the movies are a completely different universe. And it's taken some adjustment, because that's 20 years of my life.
Right.
Right? That's a lot of long boxes sitting over in the corner there that I've spent decades, enjoying and reading, and that's always been the lore to me. But now, because I've learned this new outlook, I'm now more excited about Episode 7. I'm now more excited to see a completely different twist on the idea than what I've been used to for 20 years,
I think hardcore Star Trek and Star Wars fans alike are so into it and immersed in it sometimes to actually recognize that these are two very broad staples in comics and pop culture. I mean, these are universes. I'm not talking about like the Punisher translation from comic to screen. We're talking about Star Wars. We can take that any place. So and I'm not talking about you, to shove up your glasses and be snarky about it, about any adaptation, especially when you're dealing with such huge universes, you really got to give some leniency on that. And like your fan fiction that you might want to do just a straight up Jedi story, because there's a million things you can take from Star Wars. There's a million things you can take from Star Trek. They're ginormous. It's not like I said, it's not like taking Captain America from comic to screen. Not even if you were to take the Max from comic to screen. It's not like that. It's a totally different ballgame. But But having said that, I will admit that I am pretentious in my own regard about some of the Star Wars films, the past films.
And you can't help it.
And you can't help it. That's my own hang up. And I do have to keep reminding myself that every director, just like every illustrator, every writer, everyone in the art community has a right to an adaptation. And if you don't like that adaptation, fine. But I'll bet your ass $20 fucking. It doesn't matter. Opening night, everybody's gonna be in the front row. or everybody's
Oh
going to be
yeah.
there opening night. It doesn't matter
Of
what
course.
the hell they said. They're chomping on their popcorn, ready for a shit fest, and they will shit talk all the way home from the theater back, and they will love doing it because that's what we do, baby. We are
Yeah.
nerds. I hate
We get
it,
to just
but we do it,
relish.
and I will shit
It's
talk everybody
yeah.
else who does it, except for me.
You
That's
know,
a
it's
confession.
I have you know what? You want to hear a confession, which is actually pretty well known, but I'm a big prequel apologist, and I go through a lot of shit for the fact that I there's a lot about the prequels that I get all the arguments and they're true, most of them, but there's also some brilliant genius shit that I think came out of those movies too, you know?
I'm writing
So
this down. Prequel apologist. I love it.
I'm
Is that a
I'm
Canadian thing?
also it might be. I've also been known as a large Zack Snyder apologist because
Oh,
he's just my goddamn hero and a half, you know. But
oh,
there's a
me
shift.
too.
There's a shift. DC.
Jay, you cut out. I'm sorry. Jay, you're frozen. I can't hear you. Crap. Shit. Okay, I think you're coming back. Jay, come back to me.
Oh, I hear you.
Okay, I hear you. I can't see you yet, but I can hear you. But go ahead. Okay, we were talking about Snyder. You were a
Yes.
Snyder apologist. Go ahead.
Well, one way when you talk about the different adaptations and how important that is, it's something I have learned because I was one of those snotty little push up your glasses 13-year-olds who wanted their continuity and I wanted my superhero movies to be right off the page, you know?
Mhm.
And like Batman, everyone so like the religion of the bat is so huge that there are more adaptations and variations of the Batman than probably any other comic book ever. Like just everybody has their own Batman that they could draw or want to see, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
And it's a huge thing. So for the fact that I want to see the Wolverine that I want to see on screen, I have to go to that camp. Where I used to be like, I want all the X-Men to be perfect and I want all the movies to work perfect. I'm so fucking sick of Hugh Jackman that I don't want to see those X-Men anymore. I want to see the real 5 foot tall animalistic version of Logan. You know what I mean? And the only way that that's ever going to happen is if we encourage variety, you know?
That was a poor example for me. Only because it's not that I'm a Hugh Jackman fan. I'm a Wolverine fan. I'm a fan of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, although, yeah, the continuity is lost on that one and his height and everything else.
Well, I'm not against him as Wolverine. I enjoy his Wolverine, but as you
Oh, I
said,
do too.
there's different variations, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was a poor example for me. You're talking to a chick who loves Roughnecks, so.
That's all good. That's all good. Singing and dancing Roughnecks, I guess, too.
Oh, see, that's it. If I see Hugh Jackman and anything else, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah,
I
it's
must-
hard for me to go back to Wolverine. Like you'll see him on the Tonys, and then a new X-Men movie will come out, and you're like,
Just
kind of
stay
weird.
Wolverine, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I like his Wolverine, and I like where they went with it, but he's a very human Wolverine. He's just a different Wolverine than the Wolverine I know, right?
Right,
And
right.
that's where I was kind of going with Zack Snyder. Like certain times, I think it'd be pulled off brilliantly. Like I think Watchmen, he took right off the page,
Mhm.
and in fact improved that classic comic. You know,
Yep.
just by changing the end. Like I don't think he could have pulled off the end the way the comic does it, but so Man of Steel took a lot of slack and a lot of flack, but that's the Superman I've been waiting for years.
And a lot of
And
other people too. And I think
yeah,
you're a lot of people that you might talk to at cons and stuff actually did enjoy Man of Steel. I think that's a media thing. I really do. I think that's a media stigma, and a lot of people felt differently that they really actually enjoyed the film more than they are trying to display. But I think that if you went around the con and you took sort of this general census survey, would say that people really did enjoy Man of Steel.
I would agree with you. I think it's a bit of a media thing, like, and also a lot of it was just the fan base, because like Marvel had such a Marvel fans had gotten so kind of arrogant and kind of steadfast about how they'd already won the war, sort of thing, like there even is a war. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
DC was nothing but knock down, and then what happens? Oh, all of a sudden this little show Arrow starts, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden everybody falls in love with this show, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden they decide they're going to do Batman again right away in this Batman Superman movie. Oh, there's more interest there. Oh, look, here comes this Flash show. So DC's on a roll right now. I think everybody couldn't believe why DC wouldn't follow the Marvel formula, but I don't think they have to. I don't think they need to. I think they can
Mhm.
go a completely different way with it. There's
Yep.
no DC studios. There's only a Marvel Studios. So as DC learns and Warner Brothers trusts guys, like a lot of it's the talent too, right? Like you need the Zack Snyders, you need the J.J. Abrams, you need the Josh,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
And until people start stepping up, I mean, even look at the actors like Michael Douglas and Ant-Man,
Mhm.
Anthony Hopkins and Thor, like Kenneth Branagh making that movie, like it's just never been treated to this extent. So I think the walls are going to break down soon, because I mean I can't. I'm more excited for Batman Superman than I think I might be for Episode 7, to be honest. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
I don't think I've ever been as excited for a movie since The Phantom Menace, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think everyone's excited, haters alike, because everyone wants to see how Ben Affleck's going to perform.
Oh, it's
That's
gonna be
that's the
brilliant.
drum roll. It's gonna
Yeah.
be brilliant. He's gonna shut a lot of people down. And I always say, I mean, let's think of the character of Bruce Wayne for a minute. Let's not think of Batman. Let's think of the man beyond the mask. And we're talking about a billionaire playboy. Okay, who is Ben Affleck? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I totally think he can pull it off. And I don't think people take it from that aspect. People are not seeing the human stuff. That's what makes Batman so great. Is he's very human. There's no special superpowers. He's just he has his own internal struggles and his own dark past. Bring the whole dark sheen over the entire Batman series that keeps people coming back. That's the part. It's not the costume. It's not the action. It is the dark premise and his internal struggles and his past. Now, so then you're looking at Bruce Wayne. Okay, you look at Bruce Wayne. That's who Bruce Wayne is. Billionaire playboy, dark past. Okay, Ben Affleck. Tell me how that does not make sense.
I think it makes total sense. I agree 100%. I think especially with I mean, this isn't just going to be Batman. This is going to be a Batman that, as much as Tim Burton made Batman dark again, and the world became used to this dark-sheened Batman, this is going to be a Frank Miller Batman. This is going to be leaning towards the Bat God more than the Batman side of things,
Right.
And there's almost as many Bruce Wayne iterations as there is Batman, Like everybody thinks Michael Keaton was the best Bruce Wayne there's been. And he wasn't your typical Bruce Wayne in a way, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Ben's going to pull this off in a way that's going to be great, because like Bruce Wayne's a psycho, right? Like he's a broken, damaged genius, sociopath,
Mm-hmm.
and I do lean into that camp. I like the Batman that beats Superman.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't going to be a Christian Bale Batman. This isn't going to be a Batman we've ever seen just fighting on the streets, or this is going to be a Batman to the level that he's going to take on Superman. And
Right.
oh my God, I'm getting giddy just thinking about it.
I know I'm gonna
Oh.
especially with the name Schneider attached. I mean, I don't know how anyone could give this man guff. And I was talking to another illustrator about this, and I was trying to describe describe Snyder's style, describe his style, and tongue-tied. And it's hard to, and the only adjective I could come up with was alternative. I think it's because I'm going based on like the way he shoots cinematically, like sort of the earth tones. It's got sort of an edge to it. But I don't know. How would you describe Zack Snyder if you were to describe his films?
I would describe him as a cinematic painter.
Mm-hmm.
I would describe him as an absolute master visualist. I look at his paintings. Sorry, I look at I almost don't have to change the word, but I look at his movies like paintings. I look at them like more works of art than movies have ever been. I mean, there's other directors I look at that way too, but see, I think a lot of people are like plot and this and that. All you got to give me is Zack Snyder and a cape. Okay, now look what Zack Snyder already accomplished with the Man of Steel's cape alone. Badass, amazing shit, you know? First one to be
Yeah.
smart enough to actually make it digital and make that cape do exactly what he wants it to do in the way he wants it to do in the colors he wants it to look like.
Right.
Now he gets to use the bat cape. What Zack Snyder's gonna oh, what he is gonna do with that
Good thing
cape?
I can't see your O face right now. I cannot see your face on the screen.
I know my elegant weapon keeps I must have a shitty connection. I gotta start using a real camera or some kind of crap. But yeah, I can't wait to see what he does with Batman's cape. Like it's gonna be a match made in heaven. Do you know what I mean?
It's gonna be great, and I love what he did with Dawn of the Dead as well. I mean, in my
Absolutely.
book, the man hasn't done wrong yet. So
Yeah, I agree. Even that Owls movie. Did you see the Legends of Ga'Hoole, like the Guardians? It was like a cartoon CGI
I did
owls.
not see this. No.
Okay, it's called Guardians, the Legend of Ga'Hoole or something like that, and it's a pure like kids like CGI movie, but it's brilliant. It's like it looks amazing,
It's
and
total Snyder, and
yeah,
you know when you're watching a Snyder film.
oh yeah,
That's what's
absolutely,
great too. His own staple that no one can describe. I mean, I hate to sit here and blow him, but he's a magician to me.
yeah, yeah, and him and I like that him and JJ got into their little back and forth because of the two things that those two guys both do brilliantly well, it's flying.
Yeah.
Like they can make flying feel like an experience like you haven't
Mhm.
had in cinema. You know, like when Superman was learning to fly when he first came out, Man of Steel.
Oh my
Like how much
God.
fun was that? You know what I
It
mean? And then
was. It
you know,
was.
and JJ turning Star Trek into Star Wars, that was pure like
Mhm.
maddening excitement. I'm so excited.
Yep. Yep. You felt something. I mean, that's the thing. And Man of Steel also had those human elements too. And I think what directors or what people finally caught on to was that an audience doesn't want to sit back and watch the almighty superhero. They want to feel with them, and they want a better depth to the story. And I think that joining them on their journey rather than like peeping in on their journey makes a huge difference because the movies are an experience. They should be.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is where you just made an excellent point because I think that's where DC's actually going to do something with a little more quality, I think, than Marvel. Because a Marvel movie is a Marvel comic book. Like,
Hmm.
you know, the emotional level, the action level, it is all blueprinted off a comic book. When you watch a fight scene in a Marvel movie, it's hitting and punching and throwing.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much 90% of what you're going to see. And things are a little bit different in a DC movie. You're going to see, like in a Marvel movie, people may argue about what someone looks like or what device happened or what didn't do what to what. In a DC movie, as much as people didn't like it, what were arguing about? The relationship between Clark and his dad,
Hmm.
right? Like how stupid it was the way Jonathan Kent died and blah, 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 blah. But that's what you're talking about. You're not talking about the giant space battles going on with Zod and Superman, right?
Right.
So that's something that DC is. I like that DC follows a certain pattern because I'm one of those guys who do like their superheroes godlike. Like as much as I like the anti-heroes and I love the Wolverines and I love the Punisher, like I'm a Batman fanatic. I get that, but I'm also someone who leans towards Superman in a way that he is ultimate good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they don't struggle. Their war is always they are always fighting for good. There's no questioning. There's no second guessing. Am I doing the right thing? You
Well,
know?
I understand totally what you're saying because it's sort of that why do kids believe in Santa Claus or why do you want them to believe in Santa Claus? Because you want them to still hold out for humanity that that humanity is generally good, or that there's at least one person out there who wants to do good all the time. And that makes you feel good as a person. So I totally get where you're coming from. And that was weird that it pulled out the Santa Claus analogy, but it's true. But, you know...
You're right. No, it totally makes sense.
As...
You know, it's funny you say that because I don't know if... do you watch Doctor Who at all?
No.
Okay. Well, they just had the Doctor Who Christmas special. And on Christmas Day there, and Nick Frost played Santa Claus.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was super cool, but the whole thing that it came down to, spoilers, sweeties, if you're out there and didn't see the Christmas special yet.
I ain't gonna watch it, so go ahead.
But it's the reason Santa Claus ends up through it and in it is just because of the idea you just said.
Right.
Because they're actually, a bunch of people are caught in a dream state, and in your deepest dreams, where do you believe in the most? You know, like what do you look to as the ultimate good? What would your ultimate kind of outlook on heroes and pure goodness kind of be? So in their dreams, they just subconsciously create Santa Claus to come and save them. So it's actually, you know, exactly what you were just talking about was what they laid out. You know, so
that's legit. That's a legit point. And you know, I once had a teacher, real prick. I forget what he was teaching. It was in high school. A lot of high school is hazy. But he said that his kids don't believe in Santa Claus. And I said, why? He goes, well, I don't want to lie to my kids. And I had a real issue with that. I'm like, are you lying or are you enchanting?
Absolutely. You know? Excellent phrase. Yeah. That's you put that totally right. Because I agree. Because I had the same thing too. Like, you know, I don't want to lie to my kid, but I totally let him believe in Santa. He's 4 years old. It's not going to hurt him, you know? Like,
and I don't remember I remember when I found out there was no Santa Claus. I found out it wasn't earth-shattering because at the time my brain had matured. It was catching on a little bit more. And your child, when they're just going to grow into having a little callous to their character as they go through experiences. You don't have to rip away Santa Claus in order to be like, life is hard, get used to it. They're going to develop in a way, their character is going to be a little callous because they're going to experience certain things, and that's how they grow as a human being. So you don't have to force things or force rawness into their life. Just let it happen. There you are. I see your face now.
Oh, I'm coming through. Nice.
Hi. So anyway, that's my position on Santa Claus. So.
Well, I'm glad we got that out of the way.
I was dying to know what you thought about Santa Claus.
So you consider yourself foremost the writer then?
Yes.
Because you do a few different things. You've got the Dark Blend, right?
Yeah.
And right, and I want to ask you about Almost Nerdy.
Okay.
Because now, explain to me exactly what the entity, first of all, that Almost Nerdy is.
Almost Nerdy is a media outlet for a lot of things, for film, pop culture, comics, comic conventions. They're kind of everywhere, and the proprietor of the site, his name is Ashley Glenn. He had started, Almost Nerdy as sort of just this big festival of a website that goes everywhere and, to comic conventions is promoting. But there's a lot of us, a team of writers that are from all over the country that sort of submit and contribute, and Ashley Glenn kind of reads over it and makes sure everything's cool, but he gives free license to people to just kind of write what they want to, so long as they had some sort of direction. So what I was writing was my usual snarky humor bits, my blog bits, popping off at the mouth about whatever. I couldn't swear though, so I did tailor them to that. Like I popped off about Godzilla and I had to change my language. If you go to the Cosmic Casey site, the language is a little different. But I respect that because it's his website. I was also doing convention coverage too. Like I did a Motor City piece for him and Indiana Comic Con as well. The Almost Nerdy thing took kind of a back seat after San Diego, only because I was working so hardcore on the book. So, but that's Almost Nerdy.
Because every year at Fan Expo, Toronto. The big comic shop that we have here is called Silver Snail Comics,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the big old school, Toronto's. I don't know what you call it, their staple comic shop, but they always have a giant presence at Fan Expo, of course. And always every year at the end of the table, there's a little booth set up with a bunch of almost nerdy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no one ever there. There's no one ever to talk to. There's only like some flyers and cards and stuff.
Really?
And every year I go by, every year there's no one there, and I'll ask the people there, and they're like, I don't know, it's some guy's thing or something. So I don't know what the connection is there. I don't know if maybe somebody knows somebody at the Snail or something. But
I'm not
every
sure.
year.
You should message Ashley Glenn about it. Ashley.
All right, because I followed them on Twitter. I think we follow each other on Twitter. I'll have to look into that again, but because I remember getting confused because seeing that you wrote for Almost Nerdy and stuff, and I was just like, what? Wait a minute. That's just weird. Because also we had that weird thing where old school, Craig Blake.
Yes, I know him because I met him when I was at All Things Geeks. At Steel City Con. He was at the table next to us.
Steel City would be Pittsburgh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's totally cool. Yeah, because he's at the Great Allentown Comic Con I just went to. He's very involved with that convention.
He's cool as hell. He was really cool. He made us a sign, and he was just peach keen.
Yeah,
like
no.
That guy a lot. He's cool. His art is fantastic too. I own one of his Batman pieces.
He's a big Walking Dead guy. Does a lot of big Walking Dead art. He's a big fan of drawing that stuff. But yeah, super cool guy. So I got to know him pretty good that weekend too. And then just seeing you randomly comment on his Facebook thread, I was like, well, what? Hold on, worlds are colliding.
And there you
well,
go.
It's neat. You start to see around, because McKenna was there as well in Allentown. Mark McKenna.
Mark McKenna, I just met him at Grand Con.
Oh, really? You hadn't met? When did last Grand Con happen?
This was Grand Con, the gaming one. That's where he was, and that was October, I think.
Okay, so you actually didn't know Mark when I was down there in May? Oh.
No, we had just met, and we've been friends ever since. He's a very nice gentleman, very talented illustrator. Does Banana Tail, if you want to look that up, bananatail.com. He was a killer dude, stellar gentleman. Always gives me great advice. Really cool.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing to get to meet someone like that because, he's Star Wars artist as well, right? Like he's responsible for. Geez, a whole bunch of the Star Wars books I've read over the years.
And Punisher. He did the Suicide Punisher.
Well, I think he's done like 538 issues of Marvel Comics or some kind of shit like that.
He's amazing. And what a down-to-earth guy, too. Yeah, he was very cool. And I just talked to him like a regular cat, because
exactly.
whatever.
Yeah, I thought he was just some guy, he's a cool artist, and he'd done some Star Wars work here and there, and I'm like, okay, cool, and I kind of knew the name, and Derek introduced me and stuff, and then, I spend the weekend, I kind of get to know him, and then I'm looking at his shit, like, in the weeks after, and I'm starting to realize just who this guy is, and I'm like, this guy is, like, for real, this is one of the boys, this is, like, he's beyond career at this point, like he's into his like legacy status,
Oh so, yeah, but he still maintains that demeanor that Manning is always preaching about. Just stay humble.
Oh yeah, you'd have no idea, you'd have no idea that he'd accomplish the things. But again, he's another fun one to be friends with on Facebook because he's like a fan.
Yeah.
Like the other day, he put a picture on Facebook of his cupboard, and it was nothing but like comic book glasses and cups and bowls.
Yeah, I like that. I like that picture. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. But all those guys, like even Stegman, like a guy in Ryan Stegman's position to still be so humble and such a nice guy, and I don't know. It must be the water in Michigan. I don't know.
It was like Bob Camp. I met him at Indiana Con last year, and we were all hanging out. We all went to dinner together, and. I had mentioned that I was a massage therapist and he was having some shoulder questions and stuff, and then this was a big highlight for me at the end of the con. As a thank you, he had drew me an original Ren and Stimpy illustration and said thank you.
Wow.
And it makes me tear up right now thinking of it. I remember I broke down crying, and it was very sweet. Very humble, very sweet cat. And then when I saw him at Motor City, I asked him, how was his shoulder and stuff, and he actually remembered who I was, and I thought that was really awesome, because he takes his interpersonal relationships very seriously. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like we talk on the regular or anything, but it was just cool in that moment that he remembered who I was. Maybe he won't next time, and that's fine, but no one can take those moments from me. So that was really cool.
Well, that's how I felt with Mark when I saw him in Allentown. I was like, "Hey, you remember me, Drunk on Comics?" And he's like, "Yeah, Jay. Like, what's up?" Just like, "Oh, you remember
that's
my
cool. Name." He's a Cosmic Casey fan now, so that's cool.
That's super rad. Yeah. This massage thing you mentioned now, because you are a licensed massage therapist.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about my day job.
No, but it kind of entails a question about my day job, because I'm an arborist, right?
Right. I see you up in trees a lot.
Yes.
Trees.
Now, I went to my massage therapist, and it was really interesting because my back is so bad that if you literally touch it, I will flinch. You know what I mean? Like, if you just literally, like, put your finger onto my back, I will go, ugh, and, like, tweak out and, like, kind of spasm.
Really?
And I was talking to him and talking to my chiropractor. My chiropractor says, you got to keep getting the massage, though, because I guess apparently he's done tree climbers over the years. And he says the single worst occupation he's ever seen for backs is tree climbing, period. Like, our backs are just jumbled messes of knots and balls and, like, twisted discs.
Right. Well,
so I don't know if you've ever had your hands on a tree climber, but...
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of nerve impingement happening, just because you mentioned that superficial touch makes you jump. So there's definitely some nerve impingement or nerve damage happening between the discs, would be my guess.
Okay, now, how do you find a balance? Well, I have a degenerated disc at the very bottom, but I'm not going to bore you with any more of my stupid, broken old body.
No, you're fine. We'll talk later about it.
Yeah. But how do you find the balance?
Okay, you're breaking up again. Damn it. Yeah, you're frozen. I'll wait for you to come back. Okay, are you there now? Jay. Still waiting for you to come back. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. For some reason, when I come back, it keeps coming back with my shit.
That's all right. So, you must...
I was just thinking, patience, yeah.
You crazy Canadians, you're probably podcasting from a wildlife reserve, aren't you?
Well, it's low frequency in these igloos,
And stop smoking all the trees.
Hey, you know what's funny?
Save some for the bears.
I always laugh too when the Drunk on Comics boys will make fun of the northernness, because you are actually technically, physically further north than I am in Toronto. So
even being in the southeast like I am?
Yeah, Toronto's low. Like, we're just above New York, eh? Like, Toronto, like, that's the thing about Canada. Canada, like, we have such huge space, but I think 90% of our population lives along the southern border with the U.S.,
Okay.
Like, Canada's big, but you can't live up there. You're talking minus 50, minus 60 degree weather,
Right. No, thank you. The negative 5 that we had here the other day was enough. But you were about to ask.
For me, it's a little more difficult. I got 2 kids. I got my girlfriend and my job, which makes me tired. But, I still try to find time to do the things I love, like this podcast. what helps you keep your balance? Like, how do you like unwind or
I
you
never
know
stop.
just
I
don't stop? Really?
No, 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 because I mean, I have a lot going on. I had the book, and then I had the con traveling and doing the con coverage, and I don't know how I do it, the blogging and the dark blend. I just find time and I hang out real late. I barely sleep, and I get up and I work out for about 2 hours, and then I do my thing. But the working out has definitely given me a lot of clarity because I wake up with a lot of anxiety because I take on so much on my plate, and I don't even get paid for this. But I am very passionate about it. But I think the working out helps me organize my thoughts, and it's helped me organize my life. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but I
No,
just do. I just do
I
it.
I hear why you would naturally want to talk about it because it's the thing that it helps people, blasting out good endorphins and you know, often for me getting away is actually going to work, like I'll go to
Oh yeah,
work and I'll have this say I'll spend 7 hours in a tree where I'm not thinking about anything but not falling 100 feet, right? So
right.
you kind of get into a zone where your body and your mind have to be in sync to be accomplishing this task that you've set forth. And when you zone into something and you're exerting that physical effort, it's very good for the soul. It's very calming. It's
It
very
is.
uh
Y- Yeah,
it
that's your
helps just
Zen
sort
time.
sort
That's your
shit out.
Zen time. Everyone
Yeah,
needs their Zen time, and I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I think that's the answer to your question, is that your Zen time would be what you do at work. My Zen time, like I can't work out with anybody anymore. I put on my headphones and I'm gone, and the music is inspiring me for a new story, or I'm thinking about, well, when I come home, I'm gonna write this blog. Let me write this down as soon as I get in the car. Things like that. So I just never shut off, I guess. And one day,
Yeah,
one day
yeah,
I
yeah.
will, and then never pick it back up again. But going
What
away
day?
to the cons though too. Cons are a vacation to me. I love getting away and going to cons, and
Yeah.
I mean, if I could honeymoon at a con, I would. Like,
No, it's so exciting, isn't it?
yeah,
It really is. It's super. I'm hoping that Erin comes down in May to Motor City with me because I keep trying to tell her it's not just like us going to a con. It's a whole weekend experience.
oh shit, you dropped again.